And I tell you what I don't respect. What I don't respect is celebrities coming out and talking about these situations, because let's be honest, if the person you're listening to and where you get your information from is not in it for that, if they can't lead and direct you to a source that is actually really about impacting and affecting changes within the policing system and has a plan for impacting and changing the policing and the police force's system of how it does things, then don't listen to them, because they're here to bring confusion. My God, what have I just witnessed? What have I just watched and been watching on the news over the last 2 days? Over the last 2 days, I've seen police officers killing and shooting in cold blood civilians, murdering them. And don't get it twisted, whenever a person has to use their gun and shoot their gun in self-defense or in a self-defense situation, whether you're an officer of the law or a civilian, you get booked, you go to jail, you get lawyered up, and you have to go through a due process, and you're facing a trial, murder trial, with the hopes of self-defense. That's how it works. There's so many different topics, so many variables, so many different layers that's being looked at when you look at this subject matter here that we're dealing with today. This trending topic right now at the time has so many different layers to it, and I see so many different people, news anchors and talking heads and all these different people trying to approach this topic, but so few people are actually giving a solution on it. As I'm watching all these different newscasters and all these different networks broadcasting this and talking about this subject matter, everybody from D.L. Hughley, who was interviewed and I watched, he talked out of emotion, out of passion, out of hurt, and answered a lot of the questions that the interviewers were asking him. I watched everybody from Tommy, who went on the news and had to talk about this issue and who addressed it from the side of conduct and looked at it from the side of a reactionary side, and the black people that are being emotional in this whole issue. Understand what's happening. A lot of people are talking about this situation, even your commander-in-chief, your president, but so few people, including him, are even bringing a solution to the table. And that's what we do here today, and that's what we stand for. We want to actually dive into bringing a solution to the table. I understand that a lot of the people, and I understand this entire nation at this time, are in their emotion over what they have just witnessed and what they have just saw, because what they have just saw strikes and raises a high level, a very high level of emotion. If you've just watched what I've watched, and so many of us have watched in regards to the footage of those two individuals being killed by police officers, it looks bad. It looks really bad for the police officers involved. But what we don't always see is what happened before the cameras start rolling, what happened with what we seen, and then what happens after the cameras stop rolling. I don't know. I don't have all those answers for you. I'm not here to bring those answers, but what I am here to do is actually address a solution in the subject matter, because that's what the people need. That's what the nation needs. That's what people want. They want healing. They want a solution. This problem will consist and continue to happen until you deal with the elements of bringing a probable solution to the table. So let's give some answers to these questions that we're dealing with. I'm Chris. Welcome to the Gun Lounge. I'm fresh in this YouTube thing, right? So for those who do not know me and who do not know what it is that I do or what I represent, I want to make it clear. I am a licensed firearms dealer. Yes, that's what I do for a living. I go through the legal process and I am licensed by the federal government to sell firearms to people who can legally own them, to people who can pass background checks and be able to use these guns, God forbid, in a situation of self-defense by any means necessary under the regards of the law. That is what I do. And each and every day in my life, I have the privilege and the honor of talking with people from all different races, all different cultures, all different types of lifestyles who come into this store to have conversation about the same thing that we all want at the end of the day. And the thing that we all love and what it is that we all want at the end of the day is safety and security, and to make sure that we're not becoming victims of the very things that we're trying to protect and preserve ourselves from. That is what I do for a living. Understand, people, in this time, in this very emotional time that everybody dealing with, based on what we just seen, based on what drives and spikes so many emotion and makes us act and gets a reaction, and everybody want to chip in and add their 2 cents in, and nobody's bringing a solution to the table, please don't get lost in the emotional debates if it's not directing you to a plausible solution in regards to the situation you're dealing with. You're dealing with issues with the justice system. You're dealing with issues within a policing system, and the policing policies face of these police departments that we look at. That is what you're dealing with. There's cracks and there's flaws, and there's definitely some reform that has to be made. So what should everybody be discussing? What should everybody be talking about? What people should be talking about is police reform and reforming the way that policing is done in this country. That's what needs to be addressed. There's a lot of talk going on. Was he legal and able to carry a firearm, or was he not legal and able to carry a firearm? They wanted to bring up issues of his past and what he's done in the past and his rap sheet or the history he had, and talk about this and that and that, and that's cool. I'm not here to judge anybody. Who am I to judge anybody? For real. But apart from that, what I want to focus on is not whether the person could or couldn't, all these other superficial things that gets people off track, but let's focus on actually talking about the justice system and the cracks. If we're going to have this discussion, and if we're going to move forward in making sure this doesn't happen again, if you want these type of issues, these type of problems, these horrific things that we just seen with our own eyes not to happen consistently and not to happen in the manner in which it's happening, then you're going to have to address the problem that we're dealing with. And the problem that we're dealing with is a policing policy problem. As it stands right now, the police policy is broken because it's putting and it's mixing cultures that don't understand each other and giving authority to individuals who are going into a culture in a place that they do not understand. Let's put this in another perspective. If I, a young black inner city man, or grew up a young black inner city thug, let's take it even further, grew up with a gangbanger lifestyle, and you raised me up as a young black inner city man and kid who experienced that type of lifestyle, and then let's say magically I obtain a policing badge, right? I obtain authority, I obtain the right to keep and bear arms, right? And I'm an officer of the law, and they stage me and they position me out in white suburbia. This is going to be an uncomfortable situation, not just for me, but for the suburban families and the white suburban families that I'm now policing and dealing with on a regular basis, because my upbringing and what they plucked me out of and what they put me into is not going to match mentality wise with the people that I'm trying to direct and with the people that I'm trying to police. They're going to fear me and I'm going to fear them. And in fear, I'm going to exact more force on them and deal with them a different type of way than what I probably need to. But this same thing happens when you raise up an officer and you put this officer, say a white officer who has not grew up in the inner city or in the hood, and you take this white officer and you put him amongst a large population of black people who have grew up in the struggle and grew up in a violent inner city predicament. Drugs, crime, and every other thing you can imagine that's negative. Imagine that. So now this white police officer that goes into these areas and has to police these areas is going to deal with black people in a completely different way than what he normally does. And out of fear, he's going to react and use certain type of force on them that does not need to be used because he's acting out of fear. When I just watched the videotape of the young man who lost his life, the chick's boyfriend who was sitting in the car with her, that video, and I see the fear in the face of the police. When you see how the police was carrying on and trying to conduct the conversation while he's holding the gun and the young man is dying inside of the car, you can clearly hear in his voice distress, fear, panic. He's over accentuated and he does not even understand and comprehend what he has just done. He moved in emotion and he moved in action that he probably did not need to take. Now he's done something he's probably never done in his lifetime because he moved into and he's conducting himself in an area that he does not understand. He's mixing and involving himself with a culture of people that he may not understand. He's not from the same place that they're from. So how is it possible that he's going to relate to them? How is it possible he's going to know how to communicate with them? How is it possible he's going to know and understand how black people talk, communicate, and deal with certain situations? How can he possibly move through that without being in fear of his own life? How can he move through that without being on edge, without already being wound up and wired up and set into these neighborhoods in this culture that he understands nothing about? How is that going to turn out? It's going to turn out in the very ways in which we're looking at and what we just seen. This is not going to work. This is not a solution. A lot of times you are getting these paramilitary officers and putting them in the neighborhoods in which they do not belong because they don't understand the culture. How can I, as a man, go into the house that you have built and the house where you stay and then conduct myself with you when I don't understand your culture? I don't understand your action. So in talking about a flaw, a serious flaw in our policing policy, how do we create a solution for this? What we're gonna have to do in creating a solution is simple. It's simple. Areas within the inner cities and everywhere across the America, from white suburbia to the black ghettos, need to be policed by people that understand the culture. They need to be policed by people that understand the people. They need to be policed by their own. And I'm not saying a black thing or a white thing. I'm saying a cultural thing. A person that understands the culture and understands people and understands de-escalation of situations, but at the same time maintaining situational awareness and the ability to protect themselves if they see how the situation plays out and how to play through and maneuver through that situation, not just reacting in panic and fear out of a misunderstanding, if that makes sense. When you police your own, you get better results, because the people, this is the way it used to be. When a police officer came into a neighborhood, he was introduced into a neighborhood where he came from, a city where he came from, a people where he came from, and he was able to deal with situations better, inspire people in a different way, deal with issues a lot differently, because this is not just some paramilitary officer planted in my hood that I don't understand, but this is actually somebody from the place where I'm from who I'm gonna have a respect for on mutual grounds, just due to the fact that they are of me, they are for me, and they are from the people. Now, people would say, this is not gonna work. You can't have a police raised up in the areas that they're from, policing the cities in which they live in the neighborhoods in which they've grew up in and been a part of, around the people that they know. We can't have that. That's not going to work, because they're subject to corruption. They're subject to bribes, and that is BS. Do not believe that if somebody tells you that, because that's BS. My brother, little bit younger than me. He's a Michigan State trooper, right? He's the highest authority of a police officer that you can get in the land, a Michigan State trooper. And I watched my brother go through this process. We grew up the same, went through everything the same, had the same household, the same parents, did the same things growing up that young inner city kids get into. But I watched him grow, and I watched him go into this process after he got out of the military of becoming a police officer. And my brother enlightened me about the situation and how this works. When you obtain the job as a police officer or a state trooper, this is not just you handing in an application, going through an interview, and then, hey, you got the qualifications, you get the job. It doesn't work that way. When you talk about officers, talk to them if you know them. Officers go through a larger background check than what you go through for a job. This isn't just your standard regular background check. This isn't just your standard regular FBI criminal background history and information check. This is not just your regular run-of-the-mill psyche evaluation that some people have to go through for certain jobs. This goes deeper. This is a full-blown psyche evaluation where they don't just interview the person going for the job as an officer, but they interview the entire family tree. They interview everybody that you've known in your childhood and growing up with different stages of your childhood. They go and they interview them. Your ex-girlfriends, they interview them. Your family members, they interview them. Friends that you are with and friends that you fell out with, they interview them. This is a full-blown investigation and a full-blown evaluation of the psyche, the mentality, and the passion and the heart of the person that is becoming an officer. That's what it entails when you go through the training and the qualifications to become a Michigan State Trooper police officer and get that badge. It's not just some job you're trying to get at Target. This is different. So if you have went through this officer's entire past and history, you know this man and his family almost inside out. So you know what this officer is, what he's about, and what he's capable of based on what you have just dug out of his life and out of his memory and out of the past and the people that are around him who like him and who don't like him, who you interviewed. That's what it entails. So with that, you can put that officer now who you trust and give a badge because you know him in the areas, because obviously you hired him and obviously he passed the test and the qualifications that's necessary because he's passed the psyche evaluation. You went through that. So this man that you've now hired, you can put in those areas because you're holding him to the highest standard and you can trust him. And they're now brothers in arms when they have backup. They trust each other. That's what needs to be done. We can't go on with this the same way because it doesn't work. This, beyond other things, is the most frustrating thing that I just seen today. This is the thing that disgusted me the most. What I just seen today was that the President of the United States, Barack Obama, go on camera, go on TV because this issue, this topic is trending at the time. This isn't the first time, won't be the last time, but it's trending on TV, and the president now has to go on TV. Understand one thing, black people. The president isn't the black people's president. You understand me? He did not take the job to become the president of black people. He took the job to become the president of the country, the United States. And apart from him not being the president of black people, he doesn't come from where you come from, and he doesn't care about the issues that you care about because he hasn't lived in the conditions in which you live, in which you come out of. So I watched the president of the United States go on TV and offer no solutions, zero solutions with what we just seen. We witnessed and we heard a lot of filler. We seen and witnessed a lot of talk. We witnessed some passion. We witnessed these different things. But I'm not a man about talk. I'm a man about action. I'm a man who wants to see something change and something happen. So when he goes on TV and he spoke in front of the entire nation and then abruptly left the stage after addressing the situation, that was disgusting to me. Personally, I don't know how you feel. That's on you. You feel how you feel, but I'm gonna feel how I feel. And how I felt was the issue was left open-ended with no clear solution and no clear stance on a position and making a change in regards to this. And I'll hear people say all day, but Chris, wait. He didn't talk and he didn't, move and say the things that you might have wanted him to say or acted the way you might have wanted him to act because he doesn't have all the answers yet. All the evidence hasn't come out yet. All the things hasn't come to fruition and to the floor yet. Then if all the evidence and all the things that is necessary in order to draw a full-blown conclusion and an accurate conclusion, if everything and all the pieces to the puzzle are not there yet, then we don't speak on the issue until we know wholeheartedly. So for you to go and speak, you wanted to go and speak and deal with the issue by putting out an emotional answer, putting out some message as an answer without a clear solution. Listen to me, people. If you are serious about what's going to happen, because the president is here today, but he's out of office tomorrow. And if you want to continue to exist in the capacity in which you need to exist, and you want to see the things that you just witnessed on camera stop, then you're going to have to actually push forward towards dealing with this issue and getting something dealt with on this issue. You need a solution. You need a plan of action. You can't just go off emotion because that's not going to get you anything but the results that you've been getting, which is nothing, no progress whatsoever. What was happening in the 60s and the 50s is still happening in your neighborhoods today because there's never been a plan of action to change policing policies. I love police officers, but I also understand according to constitutional rulings and a Supreme Court ruling that it is not the officer's job to preserve and protect its citizens from criminal harm. That's not their job. The job of the officer is to uphold and preserve the law, the legals. That's it, not to protect you. So at the end of the day, you have to put forth, and if you're going to be passionate about this, and if you're going to open your mouth about this subject, then come with a solution to the table. Please, that's all I'm asking. There's a lot of celebrities right now who want to tweet and open their mouth and give out inspiration and speak out of emotion and speak from their heart. And what I'm telling you as individuals and as people, get out of your emotions and get into your logic. Get out of your emotion and get into your legals. Get out of your emotion and get into a position where you can actually impact and affect change. Get out of the emotion. Emotion doesn't do anything. Get out of that. Stop listening to that and stop allowing that to feed you and start getting into a position where you can cause and impact change. Get results. Stop getting emotion. And I tell you what I don't respect. What I don't respect is celebrities coming out and talking about these situations because, let's be honest, if you're not willing to put your career on pause for a minute, if you're in the multi-million-dollar brackets, if you're not willing to put that career or whatever on pause to really head and stand for something and come forward on this issue and deal with this issue where real people dying, real people suffering, real people is losing their lives, where our brothers and sisters in the very places that we live today is growing up and going through these issues, and you're not really willing to come down here and deal with this, then don't deal with the issue. Don't talk about the issue because it's not going to impact change. You just speaking on emotion, and don't talk about the perspective of I'm an artist. I just need to inspire people to do the work. I just need to inspire the people who are going to go forth. No, we need results. We don't need inspiration. We need results right now. That's what's needed. The people are in a state of emergency. They're in a state of panic, and they don't need more emotion put on top of it. They don't need somebody sitting back calling calling shots from the background, but not at ground zero. Deal with your people who are at ground zero. And forget these leaders who you have and who you honor in the black community, who you consider leaders, when they're not impacting and giving you any type of change. If you want something, you do it yourself. If you want something, you build it from the ground up. Whenever there was something that needed to be done, the only thing that got things done when you're talking about the civil rights and the civil rights marches, when you're talking about the civil rights bill, that happened from the grassroots up, from the mud up. So if you're not in the mud with us, please leave the situation alone, because you just speaking and talking on something that you don't want to die for. You see, it's people out here who will die for this thing that I'm talking about. It's people out here who will give their life and their last breath for the very thing that I'm talking about. It's people out here who will die and get bodied over the very thing to stand for the very thing that I'm talking about. Listen to me. I gave my life to this game. I gave my life to the self-defense industry. I gave my life to my business to make sure that people would not become victims. And never in a million years would I imagine, as people of all types and cultures and races come into my store and they're all here for the same things, looking for personal protection. I never would have thought when I'm selling them a firearm that they would actually come to a place in their mindset where they're saying it's a possibility I might need to preserve and protect myself from law enforcement. Never in a million years would I think we'd have to go to that place in our mind where that is now a notion that we're thinking of in regards to self-defense. Not just against a criminal element, but against a criminal element within the police force that might want to take my life. That's crazy. But this is where we at. This is what we have to deal with. This is what's left and what's on the table for us right now. Listen to me. Listen to me. My love is for humanity. My love is for people. My love and my passion is for the preservation and the rights and the lives of all people. That's what I'm here and that's what I stand for, because that's what I do for a living. You understand me? So when I see things like this happen, it definitely strikes some emotion. It definitely raises up some issues. It definitely raises my heart and my consciousness to a new level. But I'm a man about action and I'm a man about solution. And if these people who you're listening to, who you're getting these tweets from, and all these people who want to chip into this are not really bringing forth a plausible solution, then don't listen to them, because you only in the way. If you're not in this and you're not directing the people into a solution by saying, here, this is the organization that's built, this is the stance of this organization, this is the funding put into this organization, and this is the objective in which we're sending this thing to, then we can't listen to you. If you're gonna call yourself a leader or call yourself an inspirer, then you have to lead the people somewhere. You have to direct the people somewhere. Don't get and talk and stir up emotion because you're in your emotion, but not say, this is the organization you deal with, this is the solution, and this is what we're going to impact, and this is how we're going to change it. This is how we're going to get these laws passed. This is how we're going to bring this and organize and present ourselves to legislation and to Washington, to the lobbyists, to all these other key players who are in this legal system. This is the change we want to see implemented, and this is how we're going to do it. If the person you're listening to and where you get your information from is not in it for that, if they can't lead and direct you to a source that is actually really about impacting and affecting changes within the policing system and has a plan for impacting and changing the policing and the police force's system of how it does things, then don't listen to them, because they're here to bring confusion. My heart goes out to the families who've lost individuals, because we all from the mud, we all share losses, we all went through something similar to that. That and what we've seen today impacts and affects all our lives. I'm from the inner city. That hits close to home with me. So when I say I love you and I have nothing but passion and I just want what's best for this world and for humanity, I'm dead up serious about that. That's what I represent and that's what I stand for. Sorry I couldn't get a haircut, but this message was urgent. I love you.